Welcome to the Passive Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast with your host, Andrew Keel. This is the podcast where you can get the education you need to invest 100% passively in the highly profitable niche of mobile home parks.
Welcome to the Passive Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast. This is your host, Andrew Keel, and today we have an amazing guest in Mr. Kirby Horton. Before we dive in, I want to ask you a real quick favor. Would you mind please taking an extra 30 seconds to head over to iTunes and rate this podcast with 5 stars? This helps us get more listeners, and it means the absolute world to me. So thanks for making my day with that 5-star review of the show. All right, let's dive in. Kirby Horton is the co-chief executive officer at the firm with 30 plus years experience in the insurance business and 16 years experience in manufactured housing, buying, selling, and operating mobile home parks, primarily in the southeastern United States. The firm is based in Franklin, Tennessee. Kirby, we are excited to welcome you to the show.
Thanks, Andrew. Very excited to be here and enjoy following your podcast and enjoyed meeting and visiting with you last week at SECO.
Yes, SECO was an awesome conference. It was great to put faces with a lot of names that I've heard, and it was awesome to meet you in person and have breakfast. Kirby, would you mind telling us your story and how in the world you got into manufactured housing?
Well, Andrew, like most of us, it was a very serendipitous route. I didn't go to school to get into the mobile home park business. Like you said, I spent a long career in the insurance industry, employee benefits in particular, pension plans, group health insurance. And then probably 15, 16 years ago, recognized that, I needed to transition into something else that I had more control over, something to build equity, and something that, quite frankly, was more fun. So I started looking. I'm a voracious reader, a sponge for knowledge, doing a lot of research, and came across a book that referred to this guy in the Carolinas by the name of Lonnie Scruggs. So I read that chapter about Lonnie Scruggs 2 or 3 times, put it down, came back a few months later and read it a few more times. And I just really was, infatuated with his business model. I think the guy, was a genius in that regard. And so taking his model in our small town of Franklin, Tennessee, which is just south of Nashville, there was a large mobile home park there. And I had no idea of what I was doing other than, no fear. I had nothing to lose. So I went in and cold called on the park manager and just basically said, I would like to buy your vacant homes. I didn't even know if they were called park-owned homes or tenant-owned homes. I didn't even know if he had any. I just said, I want to buy your vacant homes. And he said, okay, well, let me take you over here and show you one. And it was number 13. I remember that, to this day, and my wife and I joke about number 13. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath POS. And Andrew, it was horrible. So I paid him $800 for it and found out much later that I way overpaid. And so I
and
paid
when
him
was that,
$800.
Kirby?
Gosh, Andrew, that would have been 16 years ago. So what's the math there? 16, maybe 17 years ago. So we bought it and started working on it slowly, doing the rehab, cleaning, first of all, cleaning everything out, assessing what needed to be done, got it up to where it was move-in ready, advertised it on Craigslist, had no problems whatsoever in unloading it. Had somebody immediately, I didn't do any background checks at the time, didn't think about it. Basically, she came to me with the money and the need, and we had the product and the need to fill it. So we got her filled up, and my business, and then went back to the park manager and asked him if I could have a second one. And did the same thing there, rinse and repeat, and third one, the fourth one. And eventually, became developing a model that I stuck with. I followed Lonnie to begin with and imputed an interest rate and did this and did that. But eventually it came to my attention, most of our customers were Latino, and keep it simple is incredibly important. So what we basically did was we ended up purchasing these homes, if not outright getting them for free. We would put a few $1,000s in it, and basically we would sell them for $2,000 or $3,000 down, $250 a month for 4 years. And we did that on every home. And at a certain point, we were up to about 80, I think maybe about 80 homes in total that we had under contract. And finally, one day I went to my wife and I just said, we need to own the dirt. We need to be in the park business because they always get their lot rent first. They're first in line. So, and then the other thing that concerned me was I didn't want to be tied to that mobile home park the first week of every month, collecting rent, walking around with tens of thousands of dollars of lot rent money in my pocket. It's not that safe. So we incorporated and we let those, we transitioned into rent manager. We used pay lease for rent collection. So I got away from the problem of having to be in the park every month collecting rent. So that helped a lot. And then started looking for opportunities to purchase parks. Found one down in Warner Robins, Georgia, which is just south of Macon, Georgia, and purchased it and learned a lot, paid my tuition, lost about $70,000 on the deal before we sold it, but learned so much more than that and never looked back and just kept going. And today I think we've been involved in probably 100 or so manufactured home communities and just love the business.
Wow. What a story, Kirby. Like, congratulations on your success. That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Andrew. I think you and I sort of had the same start, didn't we?
We did. Yeah. Started as a Lonnie dealer. I mean, I can only imagine 80 homes and the operation that you had going. That is something fantastic. I got up to about 20 and detoured into parks. I ran into a park owner and he kind of took me under his wing. But I mean, you must have had it. Were all of those 80 in that same park?
Well, about 30 of them were, Andrew. And then the thing is that the owner of that park was an institutional owner. And so they came to me after about 30 of them and they said, we do have a few other parks down in the Atlanta market, and we have a major vacancy problem with a lot of vacant homes. Would you be willing to expand your operation and go down there? We can actually give you the homes and plus several months of free lot rent, while you're rehabbing them and then flipping those homes. So we did the same thing down there. The little difference down there was we shortened the 48-month payment period and got more cash up front for the sale of the home.
That's fantastic. That is.
And
so
you know what,
cool,
Andrew? Ironically, the park manager from way back when is actually one of our star performers today. I ended up hiring him, and he's on our Alan is his name, and he's on our team today and has been for probably 10 or 12 years.
That is so cool. And that's one thing I remembered from when we had breakfast is you said that a lot of your employees have been with you, 10 plus years. Would you mind touching on that and kind of just giving some insight into your culture and how you've been able to have such a high retention rate?
Absolutely. It is a team effort. And I know that gets bandied around a lot, but this is truly the case. It's not a one-person show. I mean, this team, we think very highly of them. They are best in class, no doubt about it. I would gladly put my team up against anybody else's team in competition and feel very confident about it. They're just really good people. We've never advertised for, now we have advertised for park managers, when we take over a community. But other than that, we've never advertised for corporate employees. We've always gone out, we hired them from Bank of America, Wells Fargo. We've hired them from other parks. We've hired them from experiences that we've had in other industries. So, these people were not looking for a job. We came and found them and sought them. And we've empowered them to basically be the best that they can be and to join us in our mission to build better communities. And they've stepped up to the challenge, and kudos to them. They're a great team.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how many team members are you up to now?
Well, right now, our core corporate group, which is not assigned to any one particular park, I think is about 12.
Okay.
And then in total on payroll, which includes the maintenance people, the community managers, leasing agents, all of that, I think we're bumping up against 50 total employees on payroll.
Okay. And I know we were talking a little bit about like, property management and infill project management. That's like your core. You're the elbow grease. You're putting in the work. You're handling heavy infill projects. Maybe you can touch on that and maybe talk about what you think is the toughest hurdle for most people to overcome in mobile home park ownership and investing.
Mhm. I think, in terms of the acquisition and acquiring the mobile home park, maybe expanding the park, it's the NIMBY effect, not in my backyard. Nobody wants, a mobile home park that they drive past every day on their way to work. Your community leaders, they give lip service to affordable housing, but that, manufactured housing is not on the short list of solutions to the problem, from the community leaders. Your planning people, I swear, Andrew, there's got to be a course in college for community planning that is anti-manufactured housing. It just seems like across
Yeah.
the board, most
They don't like us. They
community
don't like
planners,
us.
they cannot stand. And it took me a while to understand. I finally got through with a planner in the church that we go to. The county planner explained it to me. He said, Kirby, he goes, if you look, he said, it's purely numbers, it's dollars and cents. The tax revenue that we get from that 23 acres of manufactured housing does not offset the resources that we have to spend in subsidized lunch and breakfast at the school, the extra expense of law enforcement being deployed to the community. It's just, so I do understand to a degree the dollars and cents piece of it. Manufactured housing generally ends up costing the community more than they receive, in tax
revenues.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do understand that. However, as we all know, I'm preaching to the choir. There's an incredible need for affordable housing, and I'm a true believer that manufactured housing is the best solution for affordable housing. I mean, if you want to buy a
Amen, brother.
vehicle, if you want to buy a vehicle today, you don't go out behind somebody's barn and buy one that they manufactured behind the barn, one piece at a time. You buy an automobile that was manufactured in a factory efficiently and affordably.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of affordable housing as well. And I think what we're providing and what you're doing, infilling, because there's all these vacant lots, right, that are missed opportunities for, service workers that we desperately need. So maybe you can touch on that a little bit, your infill strategy, your project management, and what all
Mhm.
goes into that.
Yeah, one of the things, Andrew, that we have really picked up on here recently is the municipalities are starting to steer, at least here in the Southeast, they're starting to steer into third-party solutions for inspections and for code enforcement. Where before you would have county employees or city employees being your inspector and being your code enforcement. What we're starting to see in some of these counties is that they're outsourcing the inspections and code enforcement to third parties. So we'll go into a community, and this becomes very problematic. We'll go into a community and develop an incredible relationship with the local people and think that we're doing everything exactly the way they want because of early communication with them, and because that's the way we've always done it. And then it comes down to the final inspection, and then this third party comes in that's not even from the area, and they have a different criteria for passing the homes and giving us a CO. So we're starting to see a trend in that area. We, of course, like everybody else, suffered from the supply chain, issues. That hurt tremendously. We ended up trying to warehouse and buy in bulk air conditioner, 2-ton air conditioners, 3-ton air conditioners, skirting by the truckload. We tried to stockpile what we could when we could get it and where we could find it, and then just basically be our own warehousing logistics company until
And I think it's important to add.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think it's important to add color, on the scale of your operation, right? Like, how many infill homes did you bring in last year with the firm?
In 2022, a little bit over 500.
Over 500 homes, right?
Over
and
500 new homes, right?
brand new homes from
Brand
the
new homes.
factory. You're doing
Yeah.
the concrete work. You're doing the setup. You're overseeing all of that, right?
And we're also doing the infill, the marketing and filling the homes with families.
Filling it with families. That's right.
Right.
So, I mean, that's an incredible operation for 12 corporate employees to undertake. So, I mean, yeah, shed some light on that. What can we learn about that process? How are you managing that? Because that is incredible. I mean, I don't know any other groups that did, over 500.
Well, Andrew, it again, don't use the word I. It's a team effort. For instance, last September in North Carolina, we had one area that consisted of 4 different communities that received roughly 130 homes in 1 month.
Wow.
And
1 month.
It's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We have a protocol. We have documentation that has to be performed by our employees that are on the ground. Whenever a home comes in, it's important to coordinate with the factory and with the drivers. The drivers are everybody is important in the process. The drivers are important. You receive the home. They've been driving all day. They just want to unhook and get on the road and try to get back home. But we hold them, hold their feet to the ground. We want to take pictures. We want to make sure that the VIN on the home matches the documentation inside the home. And then we've got to make sure that the insurance company, same day, within a couple of hours, has received the information to insure the home, because we cannot go to bed that night and leave that home just sitting there uninsured. So, some of our employees, they're going to be working upwards to, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the evening when these homes are coming in, taking pictures, doing the documentation, filling out the paperwork, making sure that it gets to the insurance company and where it needs to be. And then, after that's done, then we start looking at putting it on the lot where the lot has been prepped. We've prepped it if we had to put footers in or piers or foundations. We've done that. Once we've got the lot ready, the home goes on, and then, then it's just, over and over the same thing, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, block, set, tie down, plumbing, electrical, AC, skirting, decks, clean the inside, sweep, mop, let the community manager inspect it, and then turn the keys over to them after we have the CO. Yeah. So again, though, it's a team effort.
Sure.
A lot of this is happening. It's always happening without me being there. Usually, we have such a dedicated, loyal team to do it.
Yeah. So it seems like it's obvious your strategy is very value add, right? You're infilling to, fill vacant lots. Do you feel like that's the best strategy right now within mobile home park investing? And, given higher interest rates, how are you guys countering that, with the interest rates you're paying on the homes you're bringing in? Are you renting a lot of these? Are you selling a lot of these brand new homes? How does that all play into where the economy's at?
Renting is our key. We have successfully failed at selling homes. We have not done a good job of selling homes inside the communities. We do an incredible job of renting and infilling. I think our average, we're running less than 30 days from the time the wheels hit the property to the time it's occupied by somebody.
Less than 30 days.
Less than 30 days. Yeah.
Wow. And oh my goodness. The amount, and you said 147 in that one little cohort.
I think it was 130. I think it was 131
in a single month. Wow.
But now that's the average, Andrew. Sometimes we get stymied and there's issues and problems that can affect it. And whether it's trying to obtain the CO or the weather or supply chain issues, there's always those kinds of issues. But we typically will average about 30 days to get a home occupied. Our marketing team I think we have about 5 people dedicated to marketing, and that team right there, they start marketing before the homes even arrive. We do video, we do walkthroughs from previous homes. That's one of the advantages of using the same manufacturer and the same model of home, is that you can do a lot of pre-marketing before the homes even arrive in the community.
Wow, that is such an awesome operation. I love it. And I know you said your strategy is, hey, we buy these huge infill projects, we fill them up, get them rented, and then you exit, right? You're selling right when they're filled up and moving on to the next project. Is that?
Correct.
Yep.
That's right. Yep. There's a
Wow.
few there, Andrew. There's a few that we've kept, longer term, especially as cap rates have, risen significantly. We know that these communities, there's an intrinsic value there, that they're worth more than the market is giving credit for based on interest rates, and they're good assets and they're cash flowing. So we'll just hold on to them until the cap rates compress again and come back down, and then probably exit at that time.
Fantastic. Fantastic. What an awesome model. I know, Kirby, you mentioned some mistakes that you've made, on your first park. You said you lost $70,000. What happened there? And then maybe you can share just some other common mistakes that, maybe you've made and you've learned from, that we can all learn from.
Yeah, the first part definitely was just ignorance, not knowing, thinking that, because we had done so many Lonnie deals, thinking that we knew how to do the deals, and then realizing that, being a Lonnie dealer and being a park owner is significantly different. We didn't research the market well enough. We saw an opportunity as a Lonnie dealer to go in and rehab homes and unload them, but we didn't look at the regulatory issues in that community. We didn't look at the infrastructure close enough at all, really. I mean, if there's a mistake to be made, we made it. We're very fortunate that we exited with just a $70,000 loss. But we learned a lot. We paid our tuition and we never looked back. We never gave up.
Yeah, no, that's what's most important. Any other items that, you've learned from, like utility infrastructure? Is there any tips for other people looking to buy parks that you'd give on that?
Yeah, I think, obviously the jewel that everybody's looking for is the direct bill utilities. I thought early on that I would steer away from well water, and now we've probably got a half a dozen parks that are on well water. I swore early on that we'd steer away from lagoons and wastewater treatment plants, and now we probably have a half a dozen properties, on lagoons and or wastewater treatment plants. It's just important, I think, to understand what your plan B and plan C is. If plan A fails, what is the cost of remedy for plan B and plan C? And if the cost for plan B and C is stomach churning and bothersome, then I think you probably need to pass on the deal. On the other hand, if it's a relatively, and I use the word relatively, inexpensive fix to convert from the well to city water, you might be able to take advantage of the fact that nobody else wants well water. Same thing with wastewater treatment. Same thing with a lagoon. Septic tanks, those are daily things. Septic tanks shouldn't cause any problems to anybody. And a lagoon is not much more than a septic tank with the lid off. But again, I think just understanding what your plan B is and plan C. Make sure you understand all the risks that are out there.
That's great. And how did you learn that stuff, Kirby? I mean, obviously hands-on, I'm sure you've learned over the last 16 years, but did you read any books and, go to any courses or anything like that to learn this stuff?
Well, like I said, I'm a sponge. I ask a lot of questions. I follow people that are successful, or I love working with people who know so much more than I know and learning from them and asking, I probably sound like a 4-year-old, why, always asking, why are you doing this? Why do you do that? And how does this work? That type of thing, trial and error, and just learning, that way. It's hard to figure out wastewater treatment plants and solutions to that and well water using YouTube. I mean, there's some base knowledge you can get from that, but for the most part, you've just got to throw your boots on and be out there and watch how it's being done and
Talk
try
to
to
people.
replicate that. Yeah, talk to people
Yeah.
and try not to make the mistake, over and over again.
Yeah. Amen. I will say it says a lot about you. I don't think any other guest that I've interviewed, has mentioned that they've listened to 15 podcasts before doing the interview, to research the format of the show. So I appreciate those downloads, Kirby.
Well, you've done a nice job on your podcast. Congrats
Thank you.
to you on having the system down and having the template.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Kirby, what are the most important things if you were going to invest passively into a mobile home park, through a syndication or something like that? What are the most important things you would look out for, to protect your investment?
I mean, Andrew, obviously it'd be the track record and the integrity and quality of the GP. And again, it's sort of a no-brainer, but it's amazing how many people fail that test. Is it the real, how realistic is it? Is, the projections that they're showing, is it real? And then, what's your other alternatives, relative to self-storage, relative to boat and RV storage, relative to RV parks, relative to multifamily or single family, right now, relative to T-bills and CDs. We're parking some of our dry powder in, CDs and T-bill and treasuries, with the interest rates the way they are. So I think as GPs or as operate syndicators now, the thing, your competition now is, are the treasuries. That's a compelling argument, investing in treasuries, quite frankly, right now.
I 100% agree with you. And it hasn't been this way, in 20 years, maybe more than
most of us. Yeah. In fact, I've never had treasuries as my competitor, and I've been around a few years, but it's been a long time since there were alternatives to actively getting in the market.
Totally agree with you. You mentioned the projections, and are they real? Are they achievable? I was just thinking, most operators, if I was looking to invest with them and they told me, yeah, we're going to buy this park and we're going to bring in 80 homes this year and they'll all be occupied by the end of the year, I'd probably question that. I'd be like, really? Do you have the resources to do that? But you're doing it every day. So what is an achievable infill number in a given year, year one after you buy a park, for you guys or for the average, investor, mobile home park operator out there?
Well, generally, I don't know what's achievable and what's realistic, Andrew. Gosh, that's
probably different by market. I'm sure, obviously a more hot market's going to have absorption higher.
I think if we looked at we'd be hard pressed to look at any deal that had less than 25 to 40 opportunities to infill. We need to bring in, 25 to 40 homes to make the deal viable, just because of scale. And I think, if somebody comes to you and says, it's a 120 empty lot fill-in project, I certainly would want to see, not just on paper, but visually, past performance. Somebody told me a long time ago, Excel, the program Excel has written more fiction than any author. Okay.
I love
so
that.
I think, you need to be careful looking at projections and looking at, what the GP puts on paper. Go kick the tires, go kick the dirt, go look at the property. And that takes a lot of effort from an LP.
That is really good advice. And even you can even hire someone on Craigslist for $100 to go do a drive-through video of a park, that the operator owns, and just see what that looks like. How does properties
Absolutely.
they currently own look? That's such great advice, Kirby.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of liars out there, Andrew. I mean, it's too bad, and there's a lot of blue sky being sold, and I think not only looking on paper at past performance, but like you said, hire somebody from Craigslist, or if it's close enough, take a day trip or a weekend trip yourself, and hit the dirt and look at the property and see, talk to a few residents and see if, is it the real deal? Is it something that you would feel proud of putting your money into? And that's the other thing is pride of ownership. We talk a lot about pride of ownership as it pertains to TOH versus POH. That's always way up there on the list of why you want to have a TOH community is because of that pride of ownership. Well, the same thing holds true with the park ownership. Is the pride of ownership there? And there's 6 rules that we run by, 3 rules that we apply to the residents, and 3 that we apply to our employees. And one of the things that we always refer to our tenants as residents, not tenants. Okay, we show them the utmost respect. But the 3 rules, 3 basic guidelines that we have for the residents is that you keep your yard clean, you be a good neighbor, and you pay your rent on time. And if you can do those 3 things, you're golden. We'll take care of everything else. You do those 3 things. And then as far as our team is concerned, everybody on our team knows that they are empowered to do what is necessary to get the job done, as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral. As long as it meets those 3 criteria, legal, ethical, and moral, then they are free to do whatever it takes to get the job done. Now, if they make a mistake along the way, then we've got their back, but we're going to coach them and instruct them not to make that mistake again. We've already invested the money in them in that mistake. Why would we terminate them and get rid of them for making that mistake after we've already paid for the mistake? Let's learn from it and move forward and not make it again. But again, as long as it's legal, ethical, or moral, they are free to do what is necessary to get the problem solved.
That's great, Kirby. Thank you for sharing that with us there.
Yep.
Kirby, what does the perfect mobile home park look like in your eyes, and why?
One that we just completed. Andrew, I think, obviously, the perfect mobile home park, it's going to be direct build utilities, all underground, not along the coast. I love the coast. I don't like sometimes the hurricane and the weather that hits the coast. So not along the coast, direct build utilities, preferably underground, good solid economy, in the area. You cannot fix the market. I can fix TOHs. I have taken some park owned homes and renovated them and salvaged them, and other people would have thought they should have gone to the landfill. There's a lot of things that you can fix. There's a lot of problems that you can fix, but one problem you can't fix is demand. If the market's not there, it's not there. So we do run multiple test ads before we go into a market. That's extremely important. If the test ads fail us, we'll do a second, maybe even a third test ad if we really like the market. But if it keeps failing the test ads, you got to cut your losses before you have any. Just don't go there.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. You mentioned the underground utilities. I'm curious why you prefer those.
There's 2 reasons. One is weather. It's nice, and then aesthetics is the other. It's nice to have all of your power lines underground. You go into a community, everything's underground. It's just a lot cleaner. Yeah. It's easier from a maintenance point of view. It's easier from a landscaping, the mowing of the yard. You don't have to mow around the poles. In extreme weather, you don't have to worry about lines coming down. In ice, you don't have to worry about the lines break. I know you're Orlando area, so that not too much of a problem down there for you, but you do have communities in freezing areas, and with that ice, those lines breaking, that can cause problems. It's just there's less problems if the utilities are all underground.
Yeah, no, that's good advice right there. Thank you. The economy and it's a big question mark. The interest rates are high right now. I say that, who knows, this is 2023. They're high compared to the last 10 years. But
Andrew, let's hope interest rates are high right now.
yeah, exactly, right. I mean, how do you see this all playing out with, how has your investing strategy changed, giving the higher interest rates and possible recession?
I have no idea where it's going, and only a fool would try to predict where it's going, I think. In terms of pivoting and being nimble, we are number one, paying attention to what we do and making sure that what we do is the best in class, and let that speak for itself. We're starting to work with a few more GPs than we worked with in the past. Typically, we would work with maybe just a couple because they had the bandwidth to bring in the kind of volume that I'm talking about. Now, with interest rates going the way they are, we're seeing that bandwidth being narrowed a little bit. So if we want to keep our pace up that we're doing, then we're going to need to expand the universe of GPs that we work with. So, we find ourselves now, working with other GPs that share the same values that we share and are on board with the mission and the direction that we want to go. So I think that's how we're pivoting and adjusting is not to crawl away, not to hide, and not to retract, but to expand and to get out there and get ourselves known.
Awesome. Kirby, what is the biggest threat in your eyes to mobile home park investing?
Highest and best use and regulatory.
Regulatory stuff.
Yeah, regulatory and highest and best use. That would be, those are the two. We've made it through, for the most part, we've made it through the supply chain hiccups. That's not to say that we won't have other supply chain hiccups. I think, our industry did an incredible job, a stand-up job of showing resiliency and stress testing during the last few years. I was very pleased to see our thesis play out that good times or bad, we are a resilient industry. So that's nice to see.
And tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like during COVID, I mean, you guys are infilling, renting homes like crazy. How did that look? Were you guys still able to fill homes and stay on schedule with your absorption rates and everything?
Absorption wasn't the problem. The supply chain issue obviously, was a hiccup that was difficult to ignore. So we did have, those issues that impacted our performance, our results. On the flip side of that, the demand was even higher than ever before. And as most operators know, your collections skyrocketed during that period of time. I don't know of any operator who says their collections were worse during the COVID thing. Everybody's collections got better. One thing, I always stress, especially to our younger team members, is trying to look beyond the headlights, but look beyond the high beams of the car. When you're driving down the road at night, you can see what's in front of you, what the lights show, but anticipate what's beyond those lights, because that's where the danger lurks. It's what's beyond the lights. And so early on during the helicopter money and everybody paying their rent, no problems, we cautioned our residents and we worked with them to build up a fund in advance, basically credits, pay in advance. You've got the money coming in, it's not going to last forever. Now, obviously it fell on deaf ears, with some people. Other people took the advice and prepaid, some months in advance, especially those that were able to obtain some state assistance dollars. Some states offered subsidized housing or, rent checks. And for those people, we really encouraged them to continue to make, their monthly payments, even though they got a lump sum, or we got the lump sum, from the state. We still encouraged them, even if they couldn't make the entire $450 a month lot rent, pay $100 a month, pay something in advance, because ultimately the state money is going to run out. And you don't want to be all of a sudden 1 month, 9 months from now, you don't want to get a rent notice, and you're not prepared for it.
You're not ready. No, that's great advice. One other thing, I know you were in the business during the Great Recession, 2008, 2009. How did it look like back then? And were there any items that you took away from that impact how you invest today?
Not really. Andrew, I guess what you don't know, sometimes if you don't know it, ignorance sometimes can be bliss, I guess. And I didn't realize how bad it was because I hadn't been in this industry or this niche, before. So I didn't realize how painful it was. So I guess there's some advantages to starting in a industry during a recession or a bad period of time, because you don't know what you don't know. And, people that maybe had it easier, prior to 07, they were wringing their hands and comparing 08 and 09 and 2010 to pre-recession. We just didn't know what we were supposed to be scared of. I guess.
And demand was there, right? Like you had empty homes and you were filling them. So
yeah, and I think, we're not the smartest kids on the block, but if demand is there, demand can cure a lot of problems, and low interest rates can cure a lot of problems. You can make a whole lot of mistakes with low interest rates, and a lot of us did. And it's when those rates start coming up that you realize how nice it was back then.
Totally. Kirby, you've given us a lot of golden nuggets. Thank you so much for coming on the show. If any of our listeners would like to get a hold of you and learn more about the firm, what's the best way for them to do so?
Well, obviously, the internet, the web, our website, I'm very proud of it. It tells a lot about our company. It's thefirmmhp.com. Rather lengthy, convoluted. Some usually have to spell it out a few times for people, but it's thefirmmhp.com. That's the best place, or via email, kirby.horton@thefirm.com. Those are the best ways. Of course, social media, our social media people hopefully have us plastered on Instagram, TikTok, all of these platforms that they understand that I don't, fortunately. And so just hopefully, if you do a Google search for the firm, we're going to show up on page 1 fairly high up.
Awesome, Kirby. What's one last bit of important advice you would give an interested passive mobile home park investor before we sign off?
A passive investor, due diligence. Again, kick the dirt, examine everything on paper, look at the numbers, compare it to alternatives that are out there. And if you have that opportunity to kick the dirt or hire somebody to go kick the dirt, absolutely, look at past performance, because past performance is indicative. It might not dictate, future performance, but past performance is indicative of the quality of work that GP has done.
Totally. Kirby, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Andrew, it's been a blast, and really enjoyed getting to know you and having breakfast last week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Kirby. That's it for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Would you like to see mobile home park value add projects in progress? If so, follow us on Instagram @PassiveMHPInvesting for photos and awesome videos from our recent mobile home park acquisitions. Once again, that's @PassiveMHPInvesting on Instagram. See you there.